Two-time NXT Women's Champion, one-time WWE Divas Champion, six-time WWE Raw Women's Champion, five-time WWE SmackDown Women's Champion, one-time WWE Women's Tag Team Champion, WWE Triple Crown and Grand Slam Champion, the winner of the 2020 Women's Royal Rumble, ranked number 1 of the top 50 female wrestlers in the PWI Female 50 in 2016. A list that goes on and on and on. Ladies, gentlemen, my non-binary friends, it is I, Josh Robinson, here for Love Wrestling. It's time for the legacy of Charlotte Flair. While WCW fans may have recognized Ashley Flair, now known as Charlotte, at the age of 14 appearing with her father in WCW in multiple vignettes over episodes of Nitro, it was on May 17, 2012 where Flair signed a developmental contract with WWE. Charlotte would have her first televised singles match on the July 17, 2013 episode of NXT, where she defeated Bayley. She would form a tag team with Bayley, and the two defeated Oksana and Alicia Fox on the September 4th episode of NXT. They would continue to be together until eventually Charlotte would turn on Bayley and form the Beautiful Fierce Females, the BFFs, with Sasha Banks and Summer Rae. Charlotte would appear on NXT throughout this time in 2012 to 2014, but in the May of 2014, an 8-woman tournament for the vacant NXT Women's Championship was created. She defeated Emma in the first round, Alexa Bliss in the semifinals, and would go on to Natalya on NXT TakeOver on May 29th, 2014. She would win the NXT Women's Championship for the first time in her career, her first championship win in the WWE, and would have a match that would change the landscape of women's wrestling within WWE, and we're seeing the effects of that very match right now. They would have a match that would be described as different, thrilling, wrestling. They would have a match that just felt like a wrestling match. In the time of 2014, we were in the latter end of the Divas run in WWE, however, we were still very much in the Divas time, where women like Natalya were on the main roster and getting to wrestle 2 minutes. When she would have this match with Charlotte at TakeOver, they wrestled for 15, 20, 25 minutes. They were getting time. Charlotte and Natty's match is still looked at as the catalyst that kind of got us started, or at least a movement that got us started with where we are with women in the industry throughout today. Charlotte would have a lengthy reign with the NXT Women's Championship. She would wrestle people like Bayley, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, have multiple appearances on Raw wrestling Natalya, but it was at NXT TakeOver Rival on February 11th where Charlotte would lose the championship to Sasha Banks in an epic fatal 4-way that included Becky Lynch and Bayley as well, ending her reign at 258 days. Those 4 women would be paired with each other throughout different kinds of rivalries, teams. Even to this day, they're still associated with each other and known as the 4 horsewomen of then NXT, now WWE. They are the 4 that changed women's wrestling in a perception by WWE. They are the 4 that did it. They are the 4 that would come up to the main roster in 2015. Of course, 3 in the beginning, Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky, would start this revolution in the Divas division. They have 3 teams of 3 going at it, Team Bella, Team Bad, and Team PCB. Charlotte would be included in the latter. She would align with Paige and Becky Lynch and eventually win the WWE Divas Championship in September of 2015, ending the record-setting 301-day reign of then Divas champion Nikki Bella. Charlotte would really make her first piece of history, something that we would see throughout the years up until this day of Charlotte Flair making history, when she would become her first WWE main roster championship, as I alluded to, the WWE Divas Champion. She would be the last WWE Divas Champion. Throughout her run as Divas Champion, she would turn and align with Ric Flair, her Hall of Fame father, and she would feud with the people like Becky Lynch, Paige, and really kickstart her career as being the top woman in WWE. Would go through until WrestleMania 32. It was Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, and Charlotte Flair for the now Raw Women's Championship, the then crowned WWE Women's Champion, ending the term diva, becoming superstars alongside the men. That match at WrestleMania 32 arguably stole the show in an absolutely incredible triple threat match. Charlotte would defeat Becky Lynch via the figure 8 and become the first ever WWE Women's Champion, and it would later be changed to the WWE Raw Women's Championship when the brand split was introduced. She would feud with people like Natalya during this time, Becky Lynch a little bit before Becky moved to SmackDown, but it was really this feud with Sasha Banks that kickstarted everything for Charlotte Flair and Sasha on the main roster. They would have multiple matches in main events of Raw, main events of pay-per-view, including the first ever WWE female superstars to be inside Hell in a Cell, 30-minute Iron Woman matches at the end of the year in 2016, Falls Count Anywhere matches, like I said, multiple main event segments, and they would feud throughout the latter part of 2016. Charlotte Flair would then be going into more WrestleMania matches at WrestleMania 33 in a Fatal 4-Way elimination match alongside Banks, Bayley, and of course Nia Jax. Charlotte Flair would then be positioned to move to SmackDown in 2017 and kind of kickstart everything that we would see throughout 2017 and 2018 alongside Becky Lynch. As we move into 2018 with Charlotte Flair's career, we would go to one of the biggest WrestleMania matches for female superstars ever at WrestleMania 34. She would go up against the then undefeated Empress of Tomorrow, Asuka, in an absolutely classic WWE WrestleMania match. Flair would end Asuka's undefeated streak and retain her SmackDown Women's Championship. Now, going into 2018, we had multiple different things happen to Charlotte Flair. She'll be cashed in on by Carmella. She would do other things and compete in Money in the Bank ladder matches. But here's where things really get interesting. Flair would go away on a little bit of a hiatus to deal with an injury, but on July 31st episode of SmackDown, she would save Becky Lynch from an attack by Carmella. She would then be inserted into the championship match at SummerSlam, making it a triple threat match. Flair would pin Lynch to win the SmackDown Women's Championship for the second time in her career. With that win, Flair became the second woman in WWE history to hold 7 championships alongside WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus. Lynch would attack Flair and usher in, if not the greatest, one of the greatest female feuds, one of the greatest feuds, gender aside, in WWE history of the modern era. They would have a few matches before this said epic match, but at Evolution, the first ever and currently only WWE all-female pay-per-view in 2018, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch would steal the show and have the match of the WWE year in a last woman standing match. Just seriously incredible stuff, and I'm sure if you are listening to this, you've watched this match. Most wrestling fans have watched this match, but just truly an absolutely incredible match there. Now, Becky Lynch would be ushered into a kind of stratosphere of being just amazing at what she's doing and just into a next level. But that wouldn't count out Charlotte Flair of doing some stuff. She would work Ronda Rousey at WWE Survivor Series in 2018 in an epic match. She would compete in the first ever women's tables, ladders, and chairs match against both Becky Lynch and Asuka. And then kind of the Royal Rumble would happen in 2019. She would compete in her first Royal Rumble match in history. She would eliminate 5 women. She would be the final woman eliminated by Becky Lynch. Becky would go on to WrestleMania, but Charlotte Flair was not long behind her. The first ever WWE Women's main event WrestleMania match in history would take place at WrestleMania 35. Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch. Ronda and Charlotte both holding the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships, respectively, in the biggest moment for the WWE Women's division at that point in history. Flair would lose that winner-take-all match to Becky Lynch. Of course, very famously, the end of that match would be Lynch pinning Rousey to win the championships. Lynch would kind of continue to fight with Charlotte during this time, and they would have multiple different matches she hadn't been defeated at WrestleMania, kind of keeping the story alive. She would win back the SmackDown Women's Championship later in the year in 2019, adding to her already illustrious reigns and illustrious title counts, I guess you could say, different kinds of championship reigns that she would have. Just keep on stacking them up. Keep on stacking them up. She would work with people like Bayley in 2019. She would kind of take a little bit of a hiatus, but enter into a match at SummerSlam in 2019 against WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus. Flair would defeat Stratus by submission in what was Stratus's final match ever. Really, when you think about it, I don't think Trish Stratus will be having another match. Charlotte got to do that. At Hell in a Cell on October 6th, Flair would defeat Bayley to win her record-setting 5th SmackDown Women's Championship and her 10th Women's Championship on WWE main roster. Now, I'm kind of listing all this stuff that happened throughout these years, and as we kind of go into 2020, go into 2021, where we are now, Charlotte Flair, at the time of this recording, is the current Raw Women's Champion. Now, what has Charlotte done in this time other than just me listing off a bunch of facts? Listen, Charlotte's done a lot. She gets a lot of unjustified and some justified hate from the IWC, the Internet Wrestling community. It is what it is. I don't necessarily buy into that kind of stuff on how someone's booked. Charlotte Flair is a very talented individual. She is a very talented female professional wrestler. I hate saying that, female professional wrestler. She's a very talented professional wrestler in general. She's one of the best to do it, and she continues to kind of evolve her style and evolve how she is. She is currently known as the Opportunity, because a lot of the opportunities that other women get are when they work with Charlotte Flair. Now, a lot of people are going to say to me, Josh, but she's just always in the title picture. She's always doing something. Yeah, okay, there's an argument for that, but I don't think that any of us would deny that Charlotte Flair is an incredible athlete, and she's very good at what she does. She's an incredible promo, incredible in the ring. We had nights like stuff that happened on January 26th, 2020 at the Royal Rumble, when a lot of people were thinking it was going to be someone else who would win that Royal Rumble. It would, of course, be Charlotte Flair. She would go on to win the NXT Women's Championship at WrestleMania 36 in front of no fans, defeating Rhea Ripley, becoming the NXT Women's Champion for the second time in her career. She would lose that championship to Io Shirai a little later on. Now, Charlotte would take a little bit of a break from WWE to go deal with some health issues, but she would return at the very end of 2020, teaming with Asuka to win her first ever WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. They wouldn't hold it for all that long before Charlotte Flair would again take a little bit more of a hiatus due to COVID issues, but come back and become the Raw Women's Champion a little earlier this year, defeating Rhea Ripley. At the point of this recording, she is a 12-time Women's Champion in WWE, a 15-time champion overall throughout all of WWE, including her Divas and NXT and Tag Team Championship reigns. She is someone that is at the very top of the ladder in WWE, gender aside. She is a mega star. And again, a lot of people give her a lot of hate, a lot of crap. She gets a lot of stuff. But what I do like about Charlotte Flair is that when stuff happens like this, she is someone that plays into that a little bit of like, I know people don't like me, I know people don't necessarily want me in this spot, so I'm going to play with it. Like I said, she calls herself the Opportunity. She is someone that is always in the line of fire, that is always doing her absolute best to make anything out of any situation. So Charlotte Flair is a WWE Grand Slam champion, and she's working with the likes of Alexa Bliss at the time of recording, doing multiple different things, working with people like Nikki ASH. When Nikki would become Raw Women's Champion a little earlier in the year, someone would stop that, and it would be Charlotte Flair. Charlotte is the pinnacle of women in the WWE. There's nobody on her level, and yes, you can talk about Becky Lynch and stuff, but there's a difference. Becky is more of a star than Charlotte Flair, in my opinion, but Charlotte Flair is more of an overall all-round talent than Becky Lynch, and people are going to come for me in the comments and that, and I'll take it. I'll happily defend myself in that one, but Charlotte Flair is what this business is kind of modeled around, and yes, okay, she has a famous father, famous family, whatever. She's exceeded a lot of expectations, and she definitely has wrestling in her blood, given who her father is, so she's She's already on, her back is against the wall in a sense, I think, for a lot of these third and second generation talents. Their back is already kind of up against the wall, and they're already looked at with more of a microscope because of who their mum, dad, brother, sister, uncle, doesn't matter. They're already kind of looked at more intensely than someone who isn't in a family of wrestlers, per se. This is kind of come across a bit weird, but this is an ongoing legacy of Charlotte Flair. It's very much in the peak of her career right now and has a lot left to give in the business, wherever that may take her. Who really knows? But she is someone that her legacy is growing, and we're going to have more championship reigns. We're going to have more WrestleMania main events. We're going to have more pay-per-view main events from Charlotte Flair. It's just a matter of fact of when, not if, with Charlotte Flair. And she's going to continue to get hate, continue to get all these kind of people throwing things at her, continue to get a lot of people just not being on her side. But she also does have a lot of supporters and a lot of people that do value Charlotte Flair for the in-ring talent she is, for the promo she is, and everything else she brings to the table. But that's going to do us for this episode of The Legacy Of. As you know, The Legacy Of drops every single Monday morning, Australian Central Standard Time. Of course, for a lot of you, that is Sunday night. So end your week right with The Legacy Of right here on Love Wrestling. We're forever growing here on Love Wrestling. I can speak for the entire team when we say thank you for your support, all the subs, all the follows, everything across all boards of social media and where we present our content. You can find all the links for my stuff and Love Wrestling stuff in the description box below. Follow me on Twitter at JoshRobinson_00. Follow Love Wrestling on Twitter at LoveWrestlingCA. If you've got some comments about Charlotte Flair, give this a share on all your favorite social media platforms so we can get more people to listen here on The Legacy Of and watch these videos. You can get this in podcast form or audio form, whatever you want to call it, over on all of your favorite podcast streaming services via Love Wrestling. I'm pretty certain that we're nearly at the point where we're caught up, and these will drop at the same time as these videos do. If you have some comments about Charlotte Flair, leave them in the comments below. I will be responding, or Love Wrestling's account will be responding to your comments below. If you have anyone that you need covered or you want to see me cover here on The Legacy Of, hit me up on Twitter. Next Monday, it is something very different. We're doing this for the very first time. Someone that isn't a woman. We're in fact covering a man next week here on The Legacy Of. Next Monday, we'll be covering Edge, the Rated R Superstar. This is something a little different from me here on Love Wrestling. Maybe there's some other stuff coming here from me on Love Wrestling. Continue to support everyone here on Love Wrestling. How many times can I say Love Wrestling before it starts to get a little weird? I don't know. Who knows? But that's going to do it for me here on Love Wrestling this week. Continue to support me. Continue to support everyone here. I love you all very much. And I'll see you next Monday for a little Legacy of Edge, eh? Eh? Yeah, alright. Peace out, everyone.